So we're at Longleaf House and we're at the end of the framing stage for the project. We actually got on parallel paths with the trades. We didn't wait until every little framing detail was done. We brought the trades in for efficiencies, and we were able to do the architectural part of the framing, the porches, the area around the chimney, those being not having a lot of mechanical, electrical, plumbing involving them, except for, of course, the chimney, which you see going up now. The rest of the framing was able to be completed and allow those other trades to come in and get early access to the project. So we're excited to see this is a major milestone for any project, and especially for one where we have really, really tight details that we're trying to execute. You can see that these timbers, these posts and beams, this is the final product. This is your trim. This is your caulking, your spackling, your sanding, the texture on these posts. This is all intentional. And this is what really we're so excited about, because you know, typically on a home like this, you would have a very spindly structural connection. It would be called out as a minimum standard, and it would be clad with something. A lot of times the framers have to build a box to get the dimensions they want. If it's supposed to look like an 8x8 or it's supposed to look like a 12x12 column, they'll have to frame all that out. And then you have to wrap it. Then you have to make sure it's straight, caulk it, sand it. So you get the point. A lot of effort goes into it, but believe it or not, it's still less expensive and less effort than doing this. Why is that the case? Well, these are all the final cuts and they're the structure. So the labor burden for this type of installation is very high. So much so that it is still less expensive to do 3 or 4 different phases to try to get the look that we have here. But we're really excited about the design of this project and the owner's desire to make sure that the materials and methods are authentic. So what we have here at the bottom are our footers are basically a pier type footing, but it's level with the grade. And the purpose of that is, as you can see, we're actually a little bit proud of the grade, and that's for drainage, to make sure that our post base connector, this ABU 6.6, which this 8x8 was cut down so we could use that size connector, it has a standoff on it, so it keeps that post high and dry. So we're just belt and suspenders here. The concrete's a little taller than the grade, that's staying high and dry. The post base is giving us another solid inch of airspace, and also providing that structural connection we need for uplift and for any kind of deflection. So you can see this post here is a true 8x8, and even though it's an 8x8 and then it looks like it magically turns into a 6x6, that's been all cut down by our in-house guys to get this detail just the way we wanted it. If you work your way up the post, this is a really nice part of this assembly. The designer, Esposito Design, called out a relieved beam detail. So these beams have the same dimensional width of the posts, and if you look at the corner here, you can see that the material's been relieved, so the beams are basically let into the post. The post is not cut clear off at the top there. There's actually a solid piece, about a 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch piece of post that remains and travels through the 2 beams in the corner. What's great about this detail, again, you start talking about uplift. Having that little piece of, here in Florida, you know, we're always thinking about uplift. Having that extra piece of structure that carries through the beam assembly, that gives us a place to anchor those beams into the post, which is then now anchored directly. So it's a simple connection. We have a clear load path, but when you would look at it, you wouldn't know all that's going on. You would just think it's a simple wood post. And we've used the moniker out here with Longleaf House of a return to craftsmanship. And this is really emblematic of that effort. So whether it's a new way to do something or a really tried and true way to do it, whatever the best fit would be, the craftsmen are bringing that to bear out here. So we're really proud of that effort. And we were actually talking about this a bit ago, that we love modern systems, building systems, air barriers, vapor barriers, like we've talked about a little bit so far in the details part of this project. But if the best way to do something is an old way of doing it, we're still open to that too. And to achieve the aesthetic desire the massing requirements that the home wanted to have, the designer wanted the home to have, old school won, and that's timber framing. So we were happy to be able to do it this way. Really excited about using Marvin Integrity windows on this job. I'm personally a big fan of their products, and you know, this look, the bronze look with the simulated divided lights on this window, it's very difficult to discern that that's not individual pieces of glass. Marvin does a great job in their effort to make this really architecturally correct. If you work your way up from the sheathing, you can see we've got our sill pan flashing. We got to use the stretch tape, which is a product that's been out for about a year or two now, I believe, from Zip, but it's fabulous for flashing pans because it nests and works its way into all those little nooks and crannies that the standard tapes really, you have to do those in 3 or 4 different pieces. That's a very complicated detail. The guys get it right, but usually if you walk around and inspect those multi-applied, multi-cut tape details versus this ends up being vastly superior, being monolithic. It doesn't have any seams in it. You work your way up the wall system. The order the flashing goes in is critical, and that's actually a code inspected type issue. A lot of times it's difficult for the building inspectors to actually inspect it. It's extremely time consuming to walk around and make sure every layer was put in the right order. So the installer used a method where they marked the wall to know how often they had rolled the tape and just making sure that they had touched every square inch in the right order. Even at the top, you can see the zip tape that's on top of that head flashing is on top of the head flashing. So you use the shingle type system or a shingle methodology of gravity is going to win, and you work from the bottom up with these flashing details. So the installer did a really great job. What's next up for us is getting the rest of the trades that need to come in. We do have a visit with a low voltage walkthrough with the owner scheduled. And then after that, we're really interested in finishing all of our air sealing and getting ready for installation. So some major milestones ahead of drywall coming our way here in the very near future. So we're very happy with how the framing piece came out, and we know the owner and the designer are also excited about the way it all came together.